Okay, so we have just a general tourism update. There was a bunch of files that were coming up to the spring of the year and kind of looking ahead. So there was just a few updates that we wanted to provide because that's going to be kind of high on the radar coming up. I'm involved in a regional resilience planning group that was sort of formed with all of the municipalities in the region, and I've been sitting on that for the last little while, and it's just a lot of discussion around different things that was primarily COVID impacted, but we are starting to move towards the spring, and tourism is a hot topic there, and I know that there's a lot of community members that have also reached out to me, just sort of tourism related. So I thought I'd just give a couple quick updates to council. The first one is there was budget allocated for a seasonal tourism position that would be available for the municipality. So if there's anything with council, we haven't got, I'm building a job description for that right now. But if there is something that you want to make sure is captured in that, please let me know. I'll be looking for feedback on that. So we're going to develop that, and we'll have probably, by the April meeting, I would expect that we're going to have some information together on that, on what that job description we think is going to look like. In doing so, I also reached out to the regional, the Chaleur Tourism and Janin over there, just because if it was a position that we were going to fill, we wanted to make sure it was aligned with some of the things that they're working on. So in that conversation, Janin did want to let council know that Tourism Chaleur as a group is going to kind of retract a little bit back on the Gorge, on sort of redirecting. They do a little bit of promotional type stuff for the Gorge, but they recognize that it's not necessarily our property, and we don't have a lot of control over the operation and the maintenance of it. We can still absolutely, we did have a brief discussion where they can certainly, make sure that the snowmobile club is being promoted, because that is kind of their property there, right? So just a quick notice on that. They wanted to make sure that that council was aware of that. And then the last thing was I know that it's been raised a couple times, and I actually do have an update since the agenda was created. But we also have the Ducks Unlimited gazebo that was, if council recalls, that was on. It's not necessarily Ducks Unlimited gazebo. It's the gazebo on River Road, but it's on Ducks Unlimited property. So there's been issues with it. It's not that accessible. We've evaluated it before. We actually did try to do a little bit of modification to the land to try to make it a little bit more accessible. And the Department of Environment sort of gave us a heads up that it is within the buffer zone for water course, so we do have to apply for a wall permit. Now, since I've put this information out to council, we actually have been in contact with Ducks Unlimited, and they've provided, and they're all for any modifications, provided that we're not removing trees or making significant changes, right? So they've actually provided us with a letter of authorization to apply for the permit and make that land a little bit more accessible. So I do know that the Jagged River Nature Group, I have been dealing with them a little bit. So I've kind of been giving them updates. Again, they've been working, my understanding is that they've had some people coming up from Bathurst and the surrounding area to sort of look at that spot. So we do want to try to make that a little bit more accessible. So what we're doing right now is generally whenever we do apply for a wall permit, Department of Environment does like a quick summary on what it is that we're going to do. So we're going to try to evaluate that whenever the snow is gone. Hopefully that's not too far away. But we will do a quick evaluation there, and there might be some sort of nominal cost that's associated, whether we need to put in, if we need to grade it or add fill or make, a little bit more safe accessibility, whether it's stairs and a hand railing, something like that. But we're going to try to put together some numbers and have that prepared for council for next month. But yeah, that was it. That was a tourism thing. That's going to be probably, I think that we're going to keep that kind of front and center for the year. I know that Councillor Arsenault has raised a couple other issues that we might be able to do for, the War of Surd tourism. And we're also continue to work. There was some land at Rorty Point that was going to be transferred over to the municipality, so we're still working with the feds on that. We've sort of reopened that file to see where they are on that. So there's some potential that we would be able to do there as well. And that's it, unless there's some questions or anything like that. I'll be sending out some emails looking for feedback on that tourism position.
Okay, thank you for that, Landon. Is there any questions, Landon?
Yeah, just a couple of points,
ahead,
Mr.
Nick.
Mayor. I'm glad that we're starting the process of getting that tourism position filled, because I think our objectives earlier were to give whoever the new hire would be plenty of time to be ready for when the tourism season actually started. So I'd say I would think that we're probably a little behind schedule on that. So whether we can make that up, because I think for whomever that person becomes, we'll need some time to become properly prepared for the task at hand. So I do hope that we expedite it somewhat. And secondly, the issue of the Jagged River Gorge, I was a little disappointed to see that, because it makes for wonderful pictures, and it might be private property, but I mean, nobody owns the Bay of Schiller either, but you can be sure that the pictures of the bay come up, play a prominent role in the promotional materials of the whole Schiller area. So the fact that the gorge might be, I'm almost worried that there are ulterior motives at play there. I have no justification for it, but I cannot understand why something as beautiful as that, say, well, we're going to leave that part out. That's just,
it's not,
it's, the dots are not coming together for me real well on that one. But, so, and I think it's been well known that anybody can go there and everybody's as welcome as can be. You know, if they've got a better plan, that's good. But if they've got promotional material that beats the view of the Jagged River Gorge, not sure that I've seen them yet.
I'd just like
Thank you,
to
Nick.
add one thing. Oh, sorry, did Tracy have something first? Go ahead. I was just going to sort of piggyback on that, because I agree. I think that's a big point. The Jagged River Gorge seems to me is like a jewel. We all know that, and it's been sort of categorized that we all know that we're from here, and we have an ambassador there. You couldn't have a better ambassador than Paul. So I think it would be really helpful if we could try and find a way. I understand the issues there, I do, because of previous motions that I've brought forward, and I didn't know certain information, and now I know. I kind of maybe get the dots where it's Councillor Divenborden, because he's not directly involved with it. But I've never understood why, when we have something so great that all of the shareholders couldn't understand, it's in everybody's best interest that we try and find a way to promote the gorge as much as possible, because that really is an untapped, for a place that's kind of looking for some economic boost. That to me is an untapped source that we need to find a way to tap. So, you know, maybe it's just a matter of bringing the shareholders together and having some conversation and see what the problems are, and see if we can't solve them, because we got to find a way to take as much advantage of that spot while we have it and while we have Paul.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, Landon, our next,
oh, no.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Speak on that.
Didn't see it.
So, and CAO Lee can correct me on what the complaints from tourism was, but I know from a few. One, because ownership is, let's call it hazy or ambiguous. Liability is an issue. Two, some of those planks have rotted, and they're not on steady ground, which is not a problem of the proprietor or anything like that. But if you're going to advertise it as a attraction, there's certain engineering requirements that would need to be met. Nobody wants to step into a minefield of lawsuits and legal issues. And the other is, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, if we could probably supply some better receptacles for empties. So when Sunday morning when the kids show up, it's not, don't have a pyramid of Budweiser cans next to it before Paul has gotten back there and graciously cleaned them up. And then kind of a reminder to everybody, if you're going to use that spot to stop and have a drink, take care of your empties. But I mean, there's a number of issues that stop us from fully realizing the potential of that gorge. And I would say the biggest one to be concerned of, and one that I know other stakeholders are, is the legality of what happens if someone gets hurt back there. The grade, even the grade on the dirt is probably not up to code for a attraction. So that's a strategic decision that I think Councillor Arsenault said quite rightly, we can leave to the next council, but yeah.
Can I just add one thing, and I want to agree with Councillor Corn on something and mention it. I know we've all been back there. The fence is scary. You know, and in a very serious way, I was back there a couple of years ago, and you know, there was a young person there, and I don't know whose responsibility that is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure, but I mean, that's a long drop, and I'm putting out. I hope it gets some attention, because I would hate to see something happen back there, and that fence is not a fence. So.
Yep, go ahead, Len.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate what really everyone's saying, I think that those are the steps that could be done to sort of revisit this, right? And so I think there's some safety. There was, I didn't get to the crux of exactly what it was, but it was presented in a way it was more of a, a property type thing. But absolutely, I think that if we could maybe do a little bit of work around, having that stuff, sort of brought up to a standard or something like that, I think it would go a long way. Yeah, absolutely. And then hopefully, potentially, we can go back to sort of being able to promote that and redirect the traffic back there. So I'll do a little bit of work on that.
Okay, thank you, Len. Any other questions, comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to your lease agreement, Landon.
I think Sandon's going to step out. Okay, so we've got the final version of the lease that was put together for the Northern Moose AAA group. They've got the dates, everything was outlined in there. Again, just to reiterate, it's, provided that we're on the level, the yellow level of, or better, of the recovery level in the province. But we captured all the details there. I'm actually just realizing right now that I was asked to do a report that I did, actually. So I've got a report that I had meant to send out to council. Actually, it was very high level with the finances. So that's done. That's on my computer. That's like doing your homework and not handing it to your teacher. So I'll get that out to council, but that covers all the finances there. So that report is together. I apologize, Paul. I meant to send that out, but that is done. But everything is captured there in the lease. We're comfortable that, obviously, provided there's not anything unforeseeable. You'll see in the report that we captured, all of the operational expenses, all of the maintenance and repair, over a 5-year term. So we're comfortable with the pricing. And if there's any questions or comments, let me know. But the motion is there for the lease.
As long as your dog didn't eat it, we'll still get it.
I was going to say that.
Okay, so we need motion 1531.
I'll move that Beldoon Council accepts as presented the lease agreement between the Village of Beldoon and the Northern Moose AAA Hockey Group for the arena, and the mayor and clerk sign said agreement.
And I'll second it.
Questions?
Just to add on, I think it just would be very valuable, and I don't think we have to get into the weeds too much. I don't think there has to be a necessary overload of information, but just where we can, where we can say this side of the ledger is going to be equal to this side of the ledger, so that there's not too much of a gap. I think it's quite, acceptable that there's a bit of a gap. I think we just don't want too much of a gap in terms of the revenue coming in as opposed to how much it's going to cost. And the other factors, the other advantages to me, and the biggest one for me is the fact that for the last year and a half, rinks have basically been at a standstill. And we need to sort of be able to kickstart that again. This is a good way to kickstart, I think, the next season. So, I appreciate the fact that it's done and not a major issue. We'll do it at some point, but it would be really nice to have. Right.
Go ahead.
Just real briefly, because I'm looking at it right now. So what we did do, just very, very high level, was we took a look at the repairs that were done, especially with the compressors. There was work, to the Olympia and stuff like that. And then what we did was we kind of averaged that out over a 5-year window, and which is actually probably a little bit. We should have averaged it out over a longer amount of time, but we were looking at the last 5 years, operational expenses and stuff like that. So the lease, factoring all of those different things that we've had done over the last 5 years, factoring that in and averaging it out over the operational months, is still actually below the number that we've set. Looking at it realistically, if there was a couple things that did go wrong, we still have a bit of a buffer worked into there that would be, there is a valid business case to it. So, to your point, Paul, about the revenue, we actually took a look over the 5 years and spread that. We averaged that out. It was significantly less. We revenue for the arena over the course of those 5 years. When you look at the, we did evaluate it over a 12-month year, which was not, it operates between 9 and 10 months a year, but the revenue is very, very nominal there. And to your point, especially lately with COVID. So it would be a nice little boost for revenue.
Okay, thank you, Landon. Okay, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, so we'll move on to the 3963 Main Street lease agreement.
Okay, so this one here, we were approached by the Circle of Friends Activity Center that was working out of Lorne. Their lease was expiring there, and luckily we had some space available that apparently is meets their needs perfectly. So we did arrange for that lease. There was a price that was set for the space. In negotiating with the client, we were the price that we agreed to was a little bit higher than the previous tenant that was there. But we've got all the information. This is for the space that's above the Jagged River Fire Hall. And there's a motion there, provided that council would like to accept that lease.
Please.
Oh, okay. I'll move that Belledune Council accepts as presented the lease agreement between the Village of Belledune and Circle of Friends Center for the west upstairs unit of Jagged River Fire Station, and the mayor and clerk signed said agreement.
I'll second it.
Questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, 7.2, we will put off until next month because Brenda's not with us. So we'll move down to 9.1 under motions and resolutions. And we'll need motion 1534. Mover and the seconder, please.
I move that the Belledune Council accept as presented the Restigouche County SPCA 2021 Animal Control Agreement dated March 15, 2021, and the mayor and clerk sign said agreement.
Second by Tracy. Any questions?
I'll just have one question for CAO Lee. Are we generally happy and satisfied with the what we get from this agreement? Like, the service that they provide to us, are we happy with that generally?
There you go.
There's your answer. There's your answer.
I would say in my experiences with it, I think that it's a little bit lacking. But however, I do understand that there is a more robust animal bylaw that needs to be developed. So my expectation is going to be when we get to that point that we can revisit this contract. To answer your question, I would suggest that I think that there's probably a little bit more service that we could get from that contract.
I admire how you kept a straight face through that whole thing, to be honest with you. Because I was thinking about the dog bark myself. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried.
I was waiting for the dog bark again, and maybe, you know.
Okay, next was the Dune Community Events Committee. Did you want to touch on that, their request?
Yeah, I didn't have too much information, but there was a request that came in asking for some dedicated office space and storage space. I know that Brenda's made a note here because some of the space that was requested is kind of being utilized in some capacity right now. I mean, I haven't talked to the events committee directly on it. I guess I don't necessarily have an issue with allocating space to them. Some of the spaces we do kind of rent out, but realistically, that's kind of few and far between. So I would think that if there is any requests that come in for that type of space, then we would probably have other alternative options that we'd be able to provide. So to be honest with you, I haven't really directly talked to them, so I don't know if it was a specific space they were looking for or just in general. But I mean, if council did want to maybe have Gina or Marilyn or someone, kind of summarize what it is that they're looking for, I certainly don't mind to do a little bit of legwork there to meet with them and see what it is that they're trying to do. So, yeah, no, I apologize. I really haven't talked to them directly on it.
Okay, maybe what we could do is just pass the motion and leave out what room it's going to be and leave that to Landon to figure out. I mean, I don't think any of us have any problem with them having some space and getting them set up where they can do a bit of stuff, because I do know that the way it works now, they've got, their stuff spread all over the place here and there, and not sure what they've got where. So that would give the opportunity. So we'll go with that motion, and if we'll just leave out what the room and whatever Landon can figure out with them could go.
Yeah, you could just probably keep it generic and say use of a room and use of a storage space.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to that effect, and you can write it the way you want, but it would be something like that. Dune Council allocate space to the events committee for meeting and storage.
Second by Lillian. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, what about correspondence? Did you have correspondence?
Yeah, I can run through the correspondence, yep. So there was the Restigouche SPCA monthly reports for February 2021. There was the Atlantic Railway Maintenance Track Inspection for March 2021. And there was the Department of Environment Local Government Assessment Gap communication that came in. That was the correspondence that came in. And I don't believe there was, oh yes, there was correspondence that went out for the IWK and Cade McCurdy.
Okay, that's it for correspondence. Okay, so we need, anyone have anything else before we adjourn?
Yeah, just one thing, Mr. Mayor. And it's not so much inspired by Sandin's 12 rules of whatever it was, for those who may be aspiring to election or re-election, but as a result of discussions that I've had with some very influential people in my life, and also as a result of some projects that I'm working on, and as a result also, these almost sound like whereases, but also that this, and I reiterate, has by far been the best council that I've ever worked with. Tonight I will officially declare that I will not be a candidate in the upcoming May election.
Thank you, Nick.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
You've done great service to this community, Councilor Davenport, in a lot of capacity. Thank you.
Okay, okay, so we need motion 1536.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting at 7:45 PM.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion carried. We're done. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here, and thank you for the people out there that watched.